Well, we officially live in a world where people have to crowdsource for their fundamental civil liberties. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber on week 9 of the lockdown, vlogging from my home office, our Subaru Ascent. My last vlog was about a Dallas County business owner named Shelley Luther, who was jailed for 7 days for being in contempt of court for defying a temporary restraining order enjoining her to close down her salon in compliance with an executive order for the state of Texas. Jailed for 7 days for being in contempt of a court order enjoining her to close her business down due to the risks of the coronavirus, while at the same time they are actually releasing criminals from jail as a result of the risks from the coronavirus. And for those of you who aren't lawyers, I want you to appreciate how exceptional it is to be jailed for contempt of court. Typically, it's a fine, sometimes a hefty fine, but it is exceptional to be jailed for contempt of court. If you haven't already seen that vlog, I'm going to link it right here, not with that car, but right here, because you have to watch that in order to really understand what's going on in this vlog.
That you now see the error of your ways and understand that the society cannot function where one's own belief in a concept of liberty permits you to flaunt your disdain for the rulings of duly elected officials, that you owe an apology to the elected officials whom you disrespected by flagrantly ignoring and in one case defiling their orders, which you now know obviously apply to you. That you understand that the proper way in which in an ordered society to engage concerns which you may have had is to hire a lawyer and advocate for change, an exception or an amendment to laws that you find offensive, that you publicly state that this is the way that citizens in the state should behave, and that you represent to this court that you will today cease operation of your salon and not reopen until after further orders of the government permit you to do so. This court will consider the payment of a fine in lieu of the incarceration which you've demonstrated that you have so clearly earned. Is there anything you would like to say?
The story generated so much outrage on social media that the Texas governor just got involved to revise his executive order to specify that violating the executive order shall not result in jail time. Now, the governor's intervention, as laudable as it may be, might not actually be a solution to Shelley Luther's particular problem, but we're getting ahead of ourselves, and hold on, that's much better. First things first, but for the people making a stink about this situation and the outrage it generated on social media, Shelley Luther might very well still be sitting in jail.
And the nonsense intensifies. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has gotten to the point where people are now being arrested for opening up their shops.
The kids, I'm okay, but I just want to thank all of you who I just barely met, and now you're all my friends. You mean so much to me, and this would have been nothing without you. Thank you so much, and I'll have more to say when I can gather myself, but I'm a little overwhelmed.
And this is what I mean when I say that we are actually living in a world where we have to crowdsource for our fundamental rights and liberties. And one of my favorite expressions from Mark Twain is that history doesn't repeat, but it tends to rhyme. What really scares me is I don't think this is any different today than it ever was. There have always undoubtedly been situations like this that always existed in the shadows of society, and it's only with the advent of social media that we can bring it to the sunlight. For all the ragging I do on Twitter, because I do consider it to be a pretty nasty platform, at the very least it was good for this. Before we get into the latest developments and what actually happened to Shelley Luther between yesterday and today, I want to read a tweet that I posted yesterday that I was actually very proud of.
Once enough people realize how outrageous Judge Moyet's decision was and it is overturned, he will be thinking I was just doing what I thought they expected of me. And that is exactly how societies descend into police-state tyrannies.
So I have a bit of a character quirk. I feel bad for people. I feel bad for people when they get what they deserve. I feel bad for people when they get what they don't deserve. I feel bad for people when they don't even feel bad for themselves. And there's a part of me that feels bad for this judge. I feel bad for this judge because I have no doubt that while he was admonishing Shelley Luther, he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was doing what people expected of him. And now people and politicians alike are rebuking the judge. They are outraged at the decision, and this judge is probably just sitting there thinking, I thought I was just enforcing the rules the way everyone wanted me to enforce the rules. As much as I vehemently disagreed with the original decision, and as much of an injustice as I think it is to jail someone for contempt of court, especially under these circumstances, I nonetheless feel bad for the judge on a personal level. But that is my issue issue alone to deal with, the reality is that life has consequences and the road to tyranny is paved in good intentions. The outrage to the judge's decision got so bad that the state lieutenant governor Dan Patrick said that he would pay the fine and he would substitute himself for Shelley Luther and do 7 days of house arrest for her in lieu of her punishment. Also, in response to Judge Moyet's order, the governor, Greg Abbott, has revised his executive orders to specifically provide that they shall not provide for jail time in the event that someone violates those executive orders. The only problem is that this probably would not have resolved Shelley Luther's issue because she was jailed not for violating the executive order, but for violating the temporary restraining order that Dallas County got against her for violating the executive order. And there's a critical distinction there. She was not jailed for violating the executive order. She was jailed for violating the temporary restraining order and for being in contempt of court. So while Governor Abbott's actions might look good on paper, it probably on its own would not have gotten Shelley Luther out of jail. What got Shelley Luther out of jail was an order from the Supreme Court of Texas on a petition for writ of habeas corpus. Now, what on earth does that mean?
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
Habeas corpus is Latin and it literally means show me the body or you shall have your body in court. Habeas corpus, medieval Latin meaning we, a court, command that you have the body, is a recourse in law through which a person can report an unlawful detention or imprisonment to a court and request that the court order the custodian of the person, usually a prison official, to bring the prisoner to court to determine whether the detention is lawful. And I was always brought up with the good advice that one has to be careful as to what countries they're traveling to ensure that those countries have habeas corpus rights. And the Supreme Court of Texas ordered the release of Shelley Luther from jail on the basis of a petition for writ of habeas corpus, and it reads as follows. The Supreme Court of Texas, orders pronounced May 7, 2020. Miscellaneous. Relator is ordered released in the following petition for writ of habeas corpus proceeding 20-0363 in re Shelley Luther from Dallas County. Relator's motion for emergency relief granted. Response requested due by 4 p.m. May 11, 2020. Note, the petition for writ of habeas corpus remains pending before this court. The exact procedure that is going on here is that Shelley Luther's attorneys filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus on the basis that Shelley Luther was being unlawfully detained. The Supreme Court of Texas ordered Shelley Luther's release without bond and gave the city until 4 o'clock May 11 to respond to the petition for writ of habeas corpus if they so choose. It's a loud train. Now, for obvious geographical and time limitations, I wasn't able to get my hands on the actual petition for writ of habeas corpus. If I'm ever able to get the actual document itself and it is worthy of a standalone vlog, I will do a vlog on it, but this is what the Texas Supreme Court had to say about it. Supreme Court of Texas, the State of Texas, May 7, 2020, to the Sheriff of Dallas County, Texas. Whereas Shelley Luther, relator, has made application to the Supreme Court of Texas for a writ of habeas corpus, alleging that she is illegally restrained by you in Dallas County, Texas, by virtue of a contempt order issued by the 14th District Court of Dallas County, Texas, and whereas pursuant to Texas Rules of Procedure, the Honorable Supreme Court of Texas is of the tentative opinion that a serious question concerning the relief requires further consideration, and the court orders the following. Case number 20-0363 in re Shelley Luther, relator's petition for writ of habeas corpus filed on May 6, 2020, in the above numbered and entitled cause having been duly considered in chambers. It is ordered that relator be released on her personal bond pending final disposition of this case. She shall not be required to deposit any amount of money to secure her release from your custody. Now, therefore, you are hereby commanded to release Shelley Luther on her personal bond in the terms and conditions of the law, and that she shall comply with the final decision of the Supreme Court of Texas, by order of the Supreme Court of the State of Texas. So that is totally fascinating. What's up? The Supreme Court of Texas is basically saying right now, we think there is a very serious issue with respect to the detention of Shelley Luther. I think he wants to go through the trunk. We are ordering her release pending the final disposition of this case without bond. And if the city wants to respond or oppose this petition for writ of habeas corpus, they have until 4 o'clock May 11th to do so. And because I'm a gambling man, especially when real money is not involved, who wants to place bets as to whether or not Dallas County is actually going to file an opposition to this petition for writ of habeas corpus? My prediction, given all of the negative press and outrage this has generated, nobody is filing a response to this petition for writ of habeas corpus. They're going to let Shelley Luther go free, and they're going to wait for a final decision on the merits. If any response is filed within the delay set out in that court order, it is going to be nothing more than a cover your tushy sort of response. We thought we had good reason to imprison this woman for violating the temporary restraining order. But if anyone were to actually pursue the position that Shelley Luther should go back to jail for being in contempt of that temporary restraining order, the optics would be beyond terrible. Not that terrible optics seem to be much of an influence these days anyhow. That is the update. What a difference a day makes. And because I read a ton of comments, a ton of tweets, responses to tweets, I've seen a number of people saying, great, now they just set the precedent that people don't need to respect court orders, they don't need to respect the executive orders, and society is going to fall apart. To those people, I would say you have something of a point, point, but you're also missing something of a point. It is simply inaccurate to say that this is setting the precedent that one can now defy court orders, defy executive orders with impunity. Fines and even hefty fines can be imposed by the government and the courts. The precedent that this is setting is that people should not be jailed for contempt except in the most extreme circumstances. Certainly not in the context of defying executive orders, the validity of which is being contested. Certainly not in the context where in a matter of days or a week the executive order in question is going to expire. Anybody suggesting that Shelley Luther got what she deserved because all she had to do was obey the law doesn't appreciate how exceptional it is to be imprisoned for contempt of court. Imprisonment for contempt of court has to remain the absolute exception and not become the new rule. Anybody who thinks it was a good precedent that Shelley Luther be jailed for her contempt will quickly find themselves in a society where someone can be arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced to jail. 9 months in jail, hypothetically, for contempt of court. And that is not a hallmark of a free and civil society, and it is certainly not a hallmark of a proper functioning judicial system. Alright, and with that said, if you like my videos and you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below. It feeds the algorithm. If Shelley Luther and or her attorneys want to do a live stream on the subject, I would be more than game to do that. And as always, if you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. I've got some merch which you may or may not like, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!